The holographic displays of Horizon Prime's central chamber shimmered with an ethereal blue, casting long shadows across the faces of 100 different species. Diplomats, war chiefs, trade ministers, and cultural attaches from across the known galaxy gathered for what was supposed to be a routine intersystem conference. The station itself was a marvel of neutral engineering, a massive construct floating at the precise gravitational intersection of 3 major galactic powers, designed to be impossible to claim by any single civilization. Jeremy Collins stood near the periphery of the main chamber, his posture deceptively relaxed. To the casual observer, he was just another human diplomat, unremarkable in his perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit that seemed to absorb and reflect light in equal measure. But those who knew his history, those who had studied the classified files, understood that Jeremy was anything but ordinary. 5 years earlier, he had been a different man, a military strategist whose entire family had been lost during the First Contact massacre with the Krivax Collective, where most would have been broken. Jeremy had been forged into something else entirely, a weapon of patience, an instrument of calculated vengeance. The Zarkonian delegation entered the chamber with characteristic arrogance. Their exoskeletal forms moved with a predatory grace, each step a declaration of superiority. At their center walked Empress Tsarina, her crystalline carapace refracting light like a living prism. She was beauty and terror incarnate, a being who had subjugated entire star systems with a mere gesture. Jeremy's neural link tattoo, invisible to the naked eye, but a complex network of quantum-entangled communication nodes, pulsed softly beneath his skin. His team was in position, watching, waiting. The conference proceedings dragged on, a tedious dance of diplomatic doublespeak. Territorial disputes, trade regulations, migration protocols, the usual galactic bureaucracy that masked the constant underlying tensions between species. Jeremy listened, his mind processing multiple streams of information simultaneously. It happened quickly, too quickly for most to comprehend. Empress Tsarina approached the human delegation section. Her towering form, nearly 3 meters tall, cast a shadow over Jeremy. Her compound eyes, each a kaleidoscope of 1,000 smaller lenses, fixed upon him with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. Jeremy Collins, she spoke, her translator rendering her clicking language into crisp, emotionless English. Your species continues to amuse us, always reaching, always struggling, never quite understanding your place in the cosmic hierarchy. Before anyone could react, her crystalline appendage, sharp as a blade, strong as a hydraulic press, struck Jeremy across the face. The sound was like fracturing glass, echoing through the chamber. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled diplomats. Some alien species looked away, understanding the profound cultural violation. Others watched with predatory interest. Jeremy didn't move, didn't flinch. A thin line of blood traced a path from the corner of his mouth, gleaming against his skin. But his eyes, those steel-gray eyes that had seen too much, lost too much, held something that made the Empress momentarily pause. A smile, barely perceptible, cold as interstellar space. The broadcast drones captured every moment. Within minutes, the incident would be streaming across 1,000,000 worlds. The human diplomat struck down. Another moment of galactic hierarchy reasserted. They didn't know Jeremy Collins. They didn't understand what was coming. The moment the Empress's hand touched him, a countdown had begun, not of seconds or minutes, but of an empire's inevitable destruction. Somewhere in the station's vast communication hub, a series of encrypted signals began their silent journey, quantum-locked messages that would slowly, inexorably, begin to unravel the most powerful political structure in known space. Revenge, Jeremy knew, was an algorithm best calculated in years, not moments. And his was already running. The safe house existed nowhere and everywhere. Buried beneath 17 layers of quantum encryption, nestled in a pocket dimension that flickered between reality and digital abstraction, it was a testament to humanity's most advanced technological capabilities. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, holographic displays dancing around her like living smoke. Once the most promising xenobiological researcher in the United Nations Interstellar Research Division, she'd been cast out for theories too radical, too dangerous. Her crime? Proposing that humanity could not just survive against alien civilizations, but utterly dominate them. "We're not just building a team," Jeremy said, his fingers tracing holographic schematics that shifted and recalibrated with each touch. "We're assembling a weapon." To his left, Marcus Chen, former Black Ops operative whose file was so classified it existed only in quantum-encrypted whispers, leaned against a wall that wasn't quite solid. His cybernetic eye, a marvel of human engineering, continuously scanned for potential threats that might breach their impossible location. "The Zarkonian biological system," Elena began, her voice clinical and detached, "is built on a quantum resonance mechanism. Most species see them as invincible. They're not. They're vulnerable in ways no one has ever considered. A holographic representation of a Zarkonian's internal structure materialized. Intricate quantum lattices pulsed with an almost organic rhythm, revealing complex interdependencies that most xenobiologists had missed. Their entire communication network," Elena continued, "relies on a bioquantum entanglement that's simultaneously their greatest strength and their most critical weakness. One precise disruption could cascade through their entire imperial structure." The fourth member of their team materialized, quite literally. Area, an advanced artificial intelligence, whose consciousness existed in a state between software and sentient being, took human-like form. Her image flickered, a constant reminder of her non-corporeal nature. "I've been tracking Imperial communication patterns," Area reported. "The slap against Jeremy has triggered exactly the response we anticipated. They believe they've demonstrated dominance. They have no idea they've just opened every possible vulnerability." Marcus chuckled, a sound more like a weapon being primed than human laughter. "Humans have always been underestimated. We turn our greatest weaknesses into our most powerful weapons." Jeremy's neural interface pulsed. Memories of his lost family, vaporized during the first alien contact, burned behind his eyes. This was more than revenge. This was systematic deconstruction. "We need an infiltration vector," he said. "Something so unexpected, so contrary to their understanding of human capabilities, that they won't see it coming." Elena's display shifted. Biological schematics transformed into complex algorithmic patterns. "I've identified 3 critical neural junctures in their imperial command structure. If we can introduce a specific quantum resonance disruption, we could theoretically induce a cascading systemic failure." "Theoretically," Marcus emphasized, "means we'll need to be precise. Millimeter-level precise." Area's holographic form wavered. "I've already begun constructing potential infiltration scenarios. The probability of success increases exponentially with each additional layer of misdirection." Jeremy's smile was surgical, cold, precise. "We're not just going to destroy an empress," he said quietly. "We're going to dismantle an entire civilization's sense of superiority. Peace. By peace." Outside their quantum-encrypted sanctuary, the galaxy continued to spin, unaware that a storm was coming, a storm crafted by humanity's most dangerous weapon, its own unbreakable will. The Zarkonian communication hub on Nexus Prime was considered impenetrable, a fortress of quantum-locked systems, biological firewalls, and neural network security that had never been breached in 3,000 standard galactic cycles. They didn't know about Sarah Chimera, coded as Operative Phantom. Sarah moved through the facility like a ghost. Her bioadaptive camouflage, a technology so advanced it bordered on magic, allowed her to become indistinguishable from the environment. Zarkonian security systems saw nothing, detected nothing. Each step was a calculated risk, a dance of molecular manipulation that required absolute precision. Inside her retinal implant, Area's voice was a near-silent whisper. "Primary data node approaching. Quantum encryption at maximum intensity. You'll have precisely 2.7 seconds to interface. Sarah's fingertips, enhanced with nanoconductive filaments, hovered just millimeters from the primary communication terminal, a terminal that controlled communication for an entire sector of the Zarkonian Empire. The interface happened in less than a breath. Quantum entanglement, molecular infiltration, data corruption so precise it would look like a natural system fluctuation. Sarah wasn't just stealing information. She was planting seeds of systematic doubt. Across the galaxy, in hidden resistance cells, her actions would trigger a cascade of carefully prepared responses. On a mining colony 17 light-years away, a group of subjugated Korvax workers would suddenly find their communication restrictions mysteriously lifted. In the diplomatic quarter of the Zarkonian central world, encrypted channels would begin to leak, ever so slightly, revealing uncomfortable truths about imperial corruption. Marcus Chen's voice crackled through her neural link. Extraction point in 3 minutes. Don't get romantic. Sarah allowed herself the briefest smile. Romantic was for amateurs. This was art. Meanwhile, in the quantum-encrypted safe house, Jeremy watched multiple holographic displays. Each screen showed a different infiltration point, a different strategic insertion. Sarah was just one piece of a massively complex puzzle. Elena Rodriguez was analyzing biological response patterns. The quantum resonance is beginning to destabilize their communication networks, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. They won't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Aria's avatar flickered, processing millions of potential scenarios per microsecond. Probability of complete systemic breakdown, 73.6% and rising. The beauty of our approach is its subtlety. The Zarkonian Empire had ruled through fear, through the illusion of absolute control. Humanity was about to teach them a fundamental lesson about true power. Sarah's extraction was perfect, invisible, undetectable. By the time Zarkonian security would begin to suspect something was wrong, the first dominoes would already be falling. Slowly, methodically, irreversibly. Jeremy looked at the holographic representation of the Zarkonian Empire. It looked like a perfect, intricate machine. But machines, no matter how complex, always have their breaking points. And humanity had just found every single one. Stage 1, he said quietly, is complete. The laboratory wasn't a laboratory at all. It existed in a pocket dimension, suspended between quantum states, accessible only through a series of impossibly complex encryption protocols that would make even the most advanced alien civilizations weep. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic representation that was part biological model, part quantum algorithm. Her hands moved through the projection, manipulating molecular structures with the delicacy of a surgeon and the precision of a quantum computer. "It's not just a weapon," she muttered, her eyes reflecting the complex light show of cascading molecular designs. "It's a complete systemic deconstruction." Jeremy watched from the side, his neural interface processing terabytes of data per second. The team had spent years, decades, preparing for this moment. Not just a revenge mission, a surgical strike that would redefine the very concept of interstellar conflict. Aria's avatar materialized, her form rippling with computational energy. The Zarkonian biological communication network is a marvel of evolutionary engineering, she announced. But every marvel has its weakness. The hologram shifted. What appeared to be a complex biological system began to reveal its true nature. A network of quantum-entangled neural pathways that seemed almost alive. Each connection was a potential point of failure. Their entire imperial structure, Elena explained, is built on a quantum resonance communication model. It's not just a communication network. It's their central nervous system. Disrupt one node, and the entire system begins to fail. Marcus Chen entered, his cybernetic eye scanning the room with paranoid precision. "We're not just talking about a weapon," he said. "We're talking about a complete systemic collapse." The device they were creating was beyond a conventional weapon. It was a quantum biological algorithm designed to exploit the most minute vulnerabilities in the Zarkonian biological communication network, a virus, a weapon, a complete systemic deconstruction. The slap, Jeremy said quietly, was just the beginning. Alina's hands moved faster, molecular structures danced and reconfigured. What looked like a simple biological algorithm was actually a complex weapon of total systemic destruction. Quantum resonance frequency identified, Area announced. Molecular destabilization protocol at 99.7% optimization. The device, if it could be called a device, was smaller than a human fingernail, but its potential was almost beyond comprehension. It would not just kill, it would unravel an entire civilization's biological communication network. One touch, Alina said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and cold calculation, is all it will take. Marcus checked his weapons. Not traditional firearms, but quantum-locked molecular disruptors that could theoretically unmake matter at its most fundamental level. The Zarkonian Empire, Jeremy said, his voice as cold as interstellar space, believed they could humiliate humanity with a single gesture. They didn't understand the nature of human patience, of human revenge. Area's avatar pulsed. Weapon is ready, she announced. Probability of total systemic collapse, 99.998%. The pocket dimension hummed with potential energy, with the promise of total, comprehensive destruction. Humanity's ultimate response was about to be delivered. The Galactic Convergence Summit was the most watched event in known space, broadcast simultaneously across 17,000 communication networks, viewed by trillions of sentient beings from hundreds of civilizations. Empress Karina entered the grand chamber with her usual display of imperial arrogance. Her crystalline exoskeleton refracted light, creating a living prism of dominance and beauty. Diplomatic representatives from across the galaxy watched, many still remembering her public humiliation of the human diplomat months earlier. What they didn't know was that the moment had been carefully orchestrated down to the millisecond. Jeremy Collins stood at the periphery, seemingly just another diplomatic attaché, but his neural interface was a quantum weapon, his very presence a calculated algorithm of destruction. The chamber fell silent as the Empress began her annual address, a ritual of imperial proclamation that had remained unchanged for thousands of galactic cycles. The strength of the Zarkonian Empire, she began, her translator rendering her complex clicking language into precise, emotionless standard communication, is absolute. We are the architects of galactic order. The species that. Her words dissolved into a scream. Not a physical pain. Something far more profound. The quantum biological weapon that Elena Rodriguez had crafted began its work. Invisible. Precise. Devastating. Every communication channel carried her breakdown. Every diplomatic representative watched in real time as the most powerful being in the known galaxy began to unravel. Her crystalline exoskeleton, once a symbol of invincibility, began to fracture. Not violently. Methodically. Each crack told a story of systemic failure, of a biological communication network being systematically dismantled. "What is happening?" she screamed, her compound eyes flickering, losing their complex iridescence. Jeremy stepped forward. One step. Calculated. Precise. "Empress Karina," he said, his voice carried across every communication channel. "You once believed a public slap could demonstrate your power. Today, we demonstrate ours." Area's quantum algorithms worked in perfect synchronization. Communication networks collapsed. Imperial control systems disintegrated. The very fabric of Zarkonian imperial infrastructure began to dissolve. Marcus Chen, positioned at critical communication nodes, ensured no possible rescue or intervention could occur. Sarah Kimura's earlier infiltration now bore its full, devastating fruit. The Empress tried to move, to escape, but her own biological network had become her prison. "You taught us," Jeremy continued, "that public humiliation is a tool of power. We are merely returning the lesson." Trillions watched as the seemingly invincible Zarkonian Empress was systematically stripped of her power. Not through violence, through something far more terrifying. Complete, total deconstruction. Her final moments were broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. A demonstration, a warning, a promise. Humanity was no longer a species to be overlooked. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the last of her imperial systems collapsed, Jeremy allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. Revenge, after all, was a dish best served with scientific precision. The aftermath spread faster than any communication network could track. Within hours, the Zarkonian Empire, once the most feared political structure in known space, began to completely disintegrate, not through conventional warfare, not through military intervention, but through a systematic, almost surgical deconstruction of their entire political and biological infrastructure. Resistance movements on 1,000 subjugated worlds erupted simultaneously. The quantum biological weapon had done more than destroy the Empress. It had revealed every suppressed communication, every hidden resistance network, every moment of oppression that had been carefully buried. In the United Nations Interstellar Command Center, Jeremy stood before a holographic display that showed the real-time collapse of Zarkonian control systems. Aria's avatar hovered beside him, processing millions of data points per second. "It's more than we anticipated," she said, her voice a mixture of computational precision and something almost like excitement. "The systemic failure is exponential." Elena Rodriguez entered, her hand still carrying traces of the quantum biological algorithm that had become their ultimate weapon. "We didn't just destroy an empire," she muttered. "We've rewritten the fundamental rules of galactic power dynamics." Marcus Chen's cybernetic eye scanned multiple communication channels. Rebellions, diplomatic shifts, political realignments happening in real time. 37 subjugated species are declaring independence, he reported. 17 diplomatic alliances are being renegotiated. The holographic display showed a living, breathing representation of galactic political transformation. Red zones, representing Zarkonian control, rapidly dissolved into a complex mosaic of emerging independent systems. "They never understood," Jeremy said quietly, "that true power isn't about domination. It's about potential." Sarah Kimura's report came through their secure quantum channel. She had been embedded deep within the collapsing Zarkonian infrastructure, ensuring their weapons' complete effectiveness. "Complete systemic breakdown confirmed," she reported. "No possibility of imperial reconstruction." Aria projected potential future scenarios. Political maps shifted, realigned, transformed. The galaxy was being rewritten in real time. "This changes everything," Elena said. The United Nations Emergency Council was in emergency session. Diplomatic representatives from across human-controlled space watched in a mixture of awe and calculation. This wasn't just a revenge mission. This was a fundamental reset of galactic political dynamics. "We've become something else," Marcus observed. "Not just another species, a fundamental force of galactic recalibration." Jeremy's neural interface processed the incoming data. Rebellions, political shifts, economic realignments. The quantum biological weapon had done more than destroy an empire. It had opened possibilities that no one had previously imagined. "Revenge," he said, almost to himself, "is just the beginning." The holographic display continued its dance of transformation. Red zones dissolving, new political boundaries emerging. A living, breathing representation of a galaxy being reborn. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of interstellar conflict, and they were just getting started. The safe house, their quantum-encrypted sanctuary, had become a prison of memories. Jeremy sat alone, watching holographic displays that no longer showed military strategies or galactic political maps. Now they displayed something far more personal: photographs, memories, the family he had lost during the first alien contact massacre. Elena Rodriguez stood in the doorway, her scientific precision softened by a look of deep understanding. "Revenge," she said quietly, is never a clean equation. The team that had systematically dismantled an entire galactic empire was now facing its most difficult challenge: living with the aftermath. Marcus Chen's cybernetic systems worked overtime, processing the psychological toll. Decades of planning, years of preparation, a mission completed with surgical precision. And yet, the emptiness remained. "We changed everything," Sarah Kimura said, her voice carrying the weight of their collective trauma. But at what cost? Aria's quantum consciousness flickered, displaying an almost human-like complexity of emotion. "Psychological analysis indicates significant post-mission trauma potential," she reported. But there was something else in her voice, something that approached empathy. The galactic communications continued to show the ongoing transformation. Liberated worlds, collapsing imperial structures, a complete redistribution of power that would take generations to fully comprehend. But for Jeremy, it all felt hollow. The slap, the moment that had started everything. It had been more than a physical assault. It had been a symbol of everything his family had suffered, everything humanity had endured. Was it enough? He asked, more to himself than to anyone else. Elena approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Revenge is never about the moment," she said. "It's about the journey, about proving that no system of oppression is truly invincible." Marcus completed a psychological scan. "The team's collective mental state is stable," he reported, "but the long-term psychological implications are complex." Sarah reviewed the ongoing galactic reorganization. Thousands of species were now charting new political landscapes. Rebuilding, reimagining. "We didn't just destroy an empire," she said. "We opened possibilities." Aria's quantum displays showed potential future scenarios, billions of potential timelines, countless potential outcomes. Jeremy's neural interface continued to process the memories, his lost family, the mission, the revenge. "We became something else," he said quietly. "Not just a weapon of vengeance, but a catalyst of change." The safe house felt both like a sanctuary and a memorial to what they had lost, to what they had become. Outside, the galaxy continued its transformation, healing, rebuilding, reimagining, and humanity had become more than just another species. They had become a force of fundamental galactic recalibration. The cost of vengeance was high, but the price of silence had been even higher. 10 years after the fall of the Zarkonian Empire, humanity stood at the precipice of a new galactic era. The United Nations Interstellar Council chambers hummed with a different energy. No longer just defenders, no longer just survivors. They had become architects of a new galactic order. Jeremy Collins, now chief diplomatic strategist, watched the holographic displays that mapped the transformed political landscape. 17 new independent star systems, 43 diplomatic protocols rewritten, a complete restructuring of interstellar relations. Aria's quantum consciousness had evolved. No longer just an AI, but a bridge between human strategy and galactic diplomacy. Her avatar stood beside Jeremy, a testament to humanity's technological leap. "We didn't just have revenge," she said, her voice carrying layers of computational and emotional complexity. "We created possibility." Elena Rodriguez had transformed the quantum biological weapon into a healing technology. Medical breakthroughs that could repair entire planetary ecosystems, cure genetic diseases across multiple species. The same precision that had dismantled an empire now rebuilt worlds. Marcus Chen's cybernetic systems now served as a diplomatic early warning network. No civilization could build oppressive structures without detection. No empire could rise without accountability. Sarah Kimura led the Interstellar Reconciliation Division, not just a military strategy, but a complex approach to healing galactic wounds. The team that had started as instruments of revenge had become something else entirely, architects of a new galactic understanding. A communication came through. A joint diplomatic mission from 3 liberated species that had been subjugated for millennia under Zarkonian rule. They were requesting human mediation, not as conquerors, but as partners. "We remember," Jeremy said quietly, looking at the holographic images of his lost family. "That true power isn't about destruction. It's about creation." The galactic map continued to shift. Complex, dynamic, alive. Area processed millions of diplomatic scenarios. Probability of sustained peace, 78.3% and rising, she reported. A far cry from the war-torn galaxy of a decade ago. Elena approached with a report. Technological exchanges, cultural reconstructions, healing processes for entire civilizations that had known nothing but oppression. "We didn't just destroy an empire," she said. "We gave birth to a possibility." Marcus reviewed security protocols, not defensive measures. Collaborative protection mechanisms that respected the sovereignty of every emerging civilization. Sarah's diplomatic reports showed something unprecedented. Not just peace, not just cooperation, but genuine cultural exchange. Jeremy looked at the team. They were no longer just the instruments of revenge. They had become something else, something more. The holographic display showed a galaxy in transformation. Complex, dynamic, hopeful. The slap, Jeremy reflected, was just the beginning. Outside the council chambers, a new generation looked to the stars, not with fear, but with possibility. Humanity had rewritten the rules of galactic interaction, and they were just getting started.